posting reviews and videos and skip the rules and things for all these old out of print games. And I'm like, because people watch them. It's not huge views, but it's just consistent long-term views. People are going to be looking up information on Monopoly spin-off games for the next 50 years. People will not be looking up title blades in 50 years. People will not be looking up, a lot of these hobby games in 50 years, but people are still going to be looking up, Castle Risk or something like that. Mm-hmm. I found quite a few hidden gems in there. I really have a high appreciation for the original Stop Thief. I think it's just so incredible. I like to look at older games, and I like to see which ones were really ahead of their time, and I can really appreciate that. Pirates of the Caribbean. This is an odd one. Pirates of the Caribbean Battleship is my favorite version of Battleship, hands down. They had some really cool, unique ideas in there, and I just love seeing older games that were punching above their weight, so to speak.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the guy that had 1,000. That was a big haul, 1,000 games.
Yes, we loaded up his truck, and we loaded up my minivan, completely filled to the brim, front, back. I was with my 3-year-old because I thought I was picking up, enough. I thought I was picking up like a couple boxes to put in my minivan because there were no pictures. Because he didn't want people cherry picking. So he was just like, if you're coming, you are taking it all. And I said, I'm down, because this was relatively early in my review career, maybe 3-4 years in. And I still had this fear that I was like, oh, I'm going to run out of games to review, which is absolutely preposterous now. I found out. But we got there, and I helped him load everything, and we drove back to my house, and I made a video about it. I put all the games in my living room. Like, it was around Christmas time, and it literally took up half of our pretty dang big living room. And my wife, it was so dusty and dingy. And then my buddy, actually, we shot a live stream where we kind of drafted the games that we wanted. But I ended up with like 800 of them. And so I
remember that video. My friend Matt showed it to me. I don't remember if I was watching it when it was live, but I was just like, holy cow.
Yeah.
What a haul. Holy man. But the biggest haul I'd probably have might have been 7 or 8 games, but you're like, here's Forrest with 1,000 games in his living room. And I thought it was a great idea, just kind of like, okay, which game stays, which game goes. I thought that was great.
Yeah, it was fun too, because most of the games I had no idea what they were, so it was just kind of picking them blindly. But the problem with that was, it's hard to store 1,000 games. It is that is not an easy task. So this one I keep my kids away from it, but they're literally just stacked on top of each other. And then down here, this, I don't know if you can really see it, but that's like at an angle, so it's like leaning against the wall. It's very, very ghetto. It's bad news, but there's a lot of great games there, and nearly every game on this wall I still haven't got to for the most part, because I've been slowly working my way through them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now you get a lot of games from companies now. How often are you getting games from like newer companies, do you think?
I have slowed down that drastically because I have such a big backlog. And so now some will still send me some, but I probably get right now about a game or two a week. But when I was actually like really seeking them out, you could be getting a package every day, because, especially if you go to like the Board Game Reviewers, there's a Facebook group for anybody who's interested in becoming a content creator. Go to Board Game Reviewers and Media, join it. It's like 4,000 or 5,000 members. I don't know. Are you on there?
I'm not. I just started. I'm going to check that out. Board Game Reviewers.
There's 2 groups. One of them's got like 200 people, but the one you want is like 5,000. It's run by I'm drawing a blank on the name. He takes selfies with everybody. Totally. But yeah, they let pretty much everybody into that group, and it's a thing where publishers post in there quite frequently as well. A lot of times it's the smaller Kickstarter publishers, but I mean, games are games.
Yeah. I know I started getting them when people would start emailing me. and things like that. And I've gotten a few games, some pretty good ones too. But yeah, I wish that the people that made like Return to Dark Tower would like, hey, would you like to review this $200 game? Oh, sure.
You should reach out to Restoration Games. I mean, especially with your channel being sort of that niche, because they're awesome people, and they've sent me some review stuff as well. Dark Tower's a big ass, but you never know. You never know.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Is that a what? Just because I don't know about it yet, is it that a website, boardgamereviewers.com, or is that like a
Facebook group? Nope, just a Facebook group, and it's oh yeah, it'll open your eyes to a whole new because there's tons of Kickstarter people posting on there. It's an awesome place.
Well, guys, I am Norm from the Board Game Museum, and today we are welcoming Forrest, who goes by several different names, from Bauer's Game Corner. He has a very great YouTube channel. He reviews board games. He reviews. He has a lot of different types of shows. He does older games, newer games. He goes to conventions. Does a lot of different types of things. And today we're just talking to him and getting to know him. Great guy, and I'm glad he got to join me today. He was homeschools his kids, and today he had to fix the situation. So I'm glad that he was able to do that. So he's great at fixing situations with kids, and he's a board game reviewer. So that's awesome.
I try for both. I try to be good at both.
So I wanted to ask, how many games do you have now?
I want to go through and I want to categorize at some point, because I don't know. Like, I really don't even have a conservative estimate. Like, because like I said, like when they're stacked to the ceiling, like how many games is this? Like how many games is that just right there? And then like with I love micro games, I love card games, and I have this bad hoarding tack. I'm a little bit of a hoarder, shockingly, just for board games, luckily.
Yeah.
But like if it comes in a tiny deck box, like a box like that, normally I only try and keep great games at this point, because I've been doing this for 8 years. I've reviewed a lot of games, so I have a lot of great games. But when it's like a smaller game, I'll convince myself to keep it just because it's like, yeah, it's small. I could take it in my pocket. But conservative estimate, I would say 1,500 to 2,000.
Wow.
I also have a kill closet. That's where we call the kill closet, where I put games that are no longer going to go in the collection, and that probably has a few hundred as well. But that's just underneath my staircase, and I actually shot a couple video segments in there as well. I just gotta throw things against the wall and see if they stick.
Right.
I don't mind poking fun at myself.
Oh, that's fine. I wanted to ask, when did you did you grow up playing board games, or how did the entire process of collecting games start for you?
I played minor board games. I played Connect 4. That was really my game as a kid. And then I played a little bit when I was in my early 20s. We used to play like this beer pong Risk. And we would take turns, like we would be playing beer pong while playing Risk. So we'd be taking our turns back and forth. And that got to be a thing we regularly did, because we loved Risks. But not really until actually my best friend died. And I started to look more into just trying to do some things with my life. It kind of kicked off an early midlife crisis at like 24, 25. And one of the things that I really enjoyed doing a couple weeks before that was going to my girlfriend, now my wife's party. She had a party, and we played Zombie Dice and Cards Against Humanity. And those were really two of the ones that kind of got me into the hobby for the most part, like really deep into it, because I started to look into more board games, because I went to the friendly local game store and I said, hey, do you have Cards Against Humanity? And they said, no, but we think you'd like Pandemic, which in hindsight, it's like, why they recommended me Pandemic when I came in for Cards Against Humanity, but it worked. And that kind of spawned starting to acquire games. And I actually just found my receipt for my first it wasn't Cool Mini or Not. It was a miniature market order where I ordered Munchkin and a couple other games. And then I saw Tom Vassell. I was Googling and YouTubing board games, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's people on the internet talking about board games. I saw Tom Vassell. I was like, I want to do this, because at the time I was living with my girlfriend in a studio apartment, and she worked nights in retail, and I'd get lonely. And I'd want to talk about board games, because I have attention deficit hyper disorder, part of the reason why I come off kind of off the cuff most of the time is just because my brain is always going 1,000 miles a minute in a bunch of different directions. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to start shooting some videos. And I sat in front of my webcam and I talked about this Bacchus card game and Get Bit. And that's when I really started to acquire games pretty hardcore. I went to Gen Con that next year, and my whole goal was to acquire games to review. And, you know, I didn't know there was a whole world of asking for review copies and like that. That was all foreign to me at this point. So I went on to Board Game Geek, amazing board game website if anyone's not using it. And they have these auctions, and they were Gen Con pickup auctions. And there was a lot of times, since there's no shipping there, where they'd have just crappy games, games people did not want for a reason. And they were so cheap that I probably spent about $80 and picked up about 100 games at my first Gen Con. Maybe, you know what, I think that's hyperbole, probably about 60 games. But they were all just terrible, terrible games.
Yeah.
And then I made a vow to myself and to my viewers, and I said, I will never get rid of a board game unless I shoot some content on it, which is hence the giant monstrosity of games just surrounding me at all corners. Yeah. And it is just, after 8 years, you know, after a couple of years, I generally realized I don't need to buy games anymore. I don't buy games anymore unless they're for my kids. That's the one thing. Unless I think I'm actually absolutely going to have a blast of a time with it with my wife, because I kind of burn her out on board games, unfortunately. Or if they're for my kids, I don't really buy anything. So nearly everything around me is just, you know, getting review copies. Because the thing is, the longer you're in it, and the more they know you, the more they're likely to give you something, because they're like, oh, yeah, I remember seeing him a couple of years ago. He's still doing it. Good. Because there's, as you could probably attest, there's a lot of burnout in the board game content creator area.
Oh, yeah. With all the Kickstarters, with all the new games coming out, you know, it's got to be kind of difficult to come up with like a new idea. Like Pandemic was, I think, an original idea, and then it spawned a whole list of Pandemic games and things. But they're sending me some company is sending me a game on swimming. I don't know if you got that one yet, but that one should be interesting for sure. So let's see. So when your channel started, how did it begin to grow? Was it organic, or what did you start to notice, like when you first started to do your channel, when people started to subscribe and the interest that started to come? Did you have any particular experience, or, you know, any, I guess, memory of it or whatever?
This is going to sound dumb, but I felt like a rock star. Every time I gained a subscriber, I'd be like, oh my gosh, someone has decided to invest in me, and that they want to know what I'm saying about board games. And every time I would get a subscriber, and still to this day, I mean, I check my numbers quite frequently, being at home pretty much 24 hours a day. And every time I get a couple more subscribers, I just kind of celebrate, because it means people are really enjoying what I'm doing. And if I keep doing it, I'm only going to continue to grow. And I that's part of the reason why I don't think I've had burnout. And I haven't got burnout, is just because I realize that this is a long-term thing. I told my wife, because we have this plan, we're going to retire hopefully early, because we're going to be living on a tight shoestring. And I want to travel around in an RV, and I want to visit board game stores all around the country. Fingers crossed they're still there, and start reviewing some board game stores and different conventions, and just traveling around the country with my wife in an RV. And I picture doing Bowers Game Corner into my 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
I see it as a long-term thing. I'm at 6,000 subscribers now. Some people would be like, oh my gosh, you've been doing it for 8 years. You know, that's discouraging. And I say to myself, no, I wasn't putting in as much effort as I could. And I didn't really worry about it. It was about fun. I had fun doing Bowers Game Corner and gaining, you know, 1 or 2 subscribers here or there.
Yeah, I think that was kind of my similar experience. You know, they just, you know, people just started to kind of trickle in, I guess you could say. You know, and I think, I don't know, I mean, I started mine probably 10 years, 11 years ago or whatever. And I don't know how many board game channels there were back when we had started. I know that number has grown since then. But yeah, I think it's the one thing we were just talking about it before we went on the air, were the interest in the older games. And I know you review a lot of the older games. What do you see? What are some of the things that you like about some of the older games as compared to some of the newer ones that you've reviewed?
I always like the fact that when I go over to this monstrosity of games over here, that I can probably read and understand the rules in 5 to 10 minutes. And that is always a nice thing to have, and I cannot say that about a lot of the newer games.
Mm-hmm.
I like the simplicity. I like the fact that, I'm a family gamer. I'm a huge family gamer. My son is about to turn 8, so he is in that peak area of just being able to play pretty much a lot of different games. And I feel like a lot of the older school games, partially because they hadn't evolved, I feel like games nowadays are better. Like I think it's just safe to say they're better, much in the same way that movies generally are better now than they were in, say, the 1920s, because things have evolved. How we make board games has evolved. It's nicer components. There's more mechanisms. There's so many mechanisms. The last great invention was like deck building games. And who's to say we're not going to figure out even more and more mechanisms? And when you start combining these different mechanisms, it's just, it's like chocolate and peanut butter. But there's just a really nice simplicity to a lot of the older school games that I like.
All right. Do you have a particular older game that you would say is like, it's kind of like a harder question, I guess.
Okay.
But is there a particular older game that you really like a lot, like that you would bring out to a board game group, if you had to choose one or two?
Liar's Dice comes to my mind. I love Liar's Dice, and I actually have 3 copies of Liar's Dice, I believe, just because. The beauty of it is you can combine different copies and you just play with more players, and you just have to kind of skew the numbers. And Liar's Dice has been a game that I have busted out at game nights before, not too frequently, but that's mostly just because there's always something new for me to review. There's always, pretty much my game night knows every Wednesday when they come over, the first game we always play is no one knows. It's whatever's in the mail. It's whatever's new. It's whatever's recent that I've read the rules for. And then after that, that's when we start revisiting old things. But generally, I don't get too many of those games to the table unless it's with my family, just because I have so many other things that I need to get to.
Here's a good one. Are there any of the older games that, like, when you got them, amazed you? Like, we had talked about Stop Thief a little bit before we went on the air. Were there any games, I guess, like maybe when you first saw them that were older that just really kind of blew your mind? For me, Dark Tower is an example, because back then, a microprocessed computer was just starting out, and they had this tower that was like using it. And, at the time, it was just like a marvel. And I still am blown away by this thing, just the fact that they were able to think of like using a tower with these turntable and it being able to do all the things that it did. Do you have any games like that that kind of blew your mind maybe when you first played them or saw them?
This one, Electronic Battleship, I think is absolutely spectacular. And it's probably my favorite, one of my favorite versions of Battleship as well. Tetris 3D. I got it on here somewhere. That's one that I absolutely adore. It's this really tall plastic piece like this, and then there's Tetris pieces, and it's an electronic thing, and it has, and it's just Tetris between you two, and it's really stinking cool as well. I'm really excited for the VCR games. I have like 4 VCR games. I have my VCR sitting here in front of me. I just need to get it all connected and start doing some stuff with the VCR games. But those ones, I've played a couple of those. I always really enjoy those. I think it's just such a cool idea to try to mix mediums to see how it goes. And them doing that, in the 80s and the 90s, I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could get a 3D Tetris showing on the screen share. I'm still learning the screen share here. Let's see here. I'm just looking through the questions. If any of you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask them.
Yeah, I'm an open book. I'm more than happy to talk about anything.
Oh, here's one. Are there any older games that you would like to see reprinted? I know Restoration Games has been reprinting some of the older classics. Do you have any in particular you'd like to see?
Oh, they actually are reprinting the one that was my go-to answer now, which was this a jet fighting game that I don't remember off the top of my head. I would. Well, here's the thing: the ones that I'd like to see them reprint are the ones that I know they're not going to do because they're like Clue licensed. Because Clue, in particular, has had some really decent spin-off games. Like I got Clue Master Detective over here, which is a really stinking cool game. I've got Clue Museum Caper somewhere around here, which is, it's not actually a Clue game, but it's a hidden movement game that has like this 3D base where you're moving around and trying to steal paintings and escape. And I would love to see some of those games get redone with the passion and, you know, the kind of love that they put in restoration games. But of stuff that could get reprinted, Screaming Eagles, that was the name of the one. That's the normal answer I go to. That's an absolutely spectacular jet fighting game, but I'm pretty sure they're actually on that one.
They had what was it? They had they made something called the Mission Command series, and they did a reprint of that one called Mission Command Air. And they did Mission Command Land, which was based on was it Carrier Strike, and then Tank Battle, and then Carrier Strike was Mission Command Sea. So they did 3 games in the series, and so they did redo Screaming Eagles, but but it's called Mission Command Air, and it's like it has the board, you're flying around, and I think you have 2 different types of jets that have different types of weaponry and stuff. It's a fun game. I enjoy that one too. Did you want to? I know you did this earlier. Do you want to pan around and just kind of show everybody what you got?
Yeah. So I did the unboxing. I got this. This area kind of over there. Move these chairs. That's a whole other shelf right there. That's stuff that needs to get reviewed. That's my shelf of shame.
Wow.
Let me see if I can get over here. That's my wife just rigged me up a green screen. But this is the wall of games. This is where I tend to keep most of the games that will get played on game night, like the great games, so they can kind of be displayed in the backdrop of my thing. But I've also been kind of just putting forward ones. Let me actually move this real quick.
So is that kind of like your studio back there?
Yeah. This is Bauer's Game Corner is pretty much my basement in most aspects. My wife gave me free reign when we first moved in, and she said you can do whatever you want down here. So over here we got So this goes back to the wall. These are games, more games. This goes once again to the ceiling. That's games. Right here I got my... I wish I could get in close on this one. I have a huge shelf that's just family games over here. That's like that one right there is nothing but family games, literally top to bottom, because those are by far my favorite genre of games. And then behind that green screen, I know this is great, there's a whole other thing of games. And then down below that is all my children's games, because I will fight anyone who tells me that children's games or family games are the same, because they are not.
No, they're not. There are some children's games that I played that they're really, really fun, and there's actually a little bit of strategy to them.
Well, I just think that I consider a children's game a game that if you teach children how to play it, then they can teach other kids how to play it. That's what I've always considered to be a children's game. Whereas a family game, I feel like that's when you need the adult to kind of steer the ship. And so I feel like there's definitely a clear line, at least that I draw when a game, whether a game's a children's game or a family game. But I guess it depends on how smart your kid is, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. So what do you got next going on your channel? Have you got any reviews, shows? I'm sure you got a lot going on. What's immediately next for you?
I'm actually gonna take the next day or two off for the most part. I do a Kickstarter critique every day, 2 p.m. Eastern time live, which has been really popular for me. It's an odd series where I look at Kickstarters, but I look at how the Kickstarter is actually being ran. Like I'll critique like how they did shipping, or the videos, they don't have enough videos, or they don't have. This is confusing. I don't actually look at the sorry,
hold on.
I do that all the time. But I do a live stream of those. And then what I've started to do on the weekend is I've started to do like tech Kickstarter because eventually I run out of regular board games I'm interested in. So I'll start doing stuff in the world of tech. So I'm starting to dip my toes into there. And I've gained a couple subscribers that way because if I could start breaking into the tech market, I get to review some really cool stuff potentially. I just did my top 93 games of 2020, a stream last night that killed my throat because I was talking nonstop for 90 minutes, which I didn't realize was going to knock it out of me like that. But I just did that. I'm still posting reviews. I got game night tonight, so hopefully I get one or two people to come over. I got a very small bubble. And so we'll shoot. So I'm very fortunate. I've talked to my game night now, and so my game night is cool shooting videos with me. So after we play stuff on game night, we shoot videos. And what's nice is that it's just extra faces and extra flavor on the channel, which I like. And I keep chugging along. Most of the stuff I'm doing right now is behind the scenes because, as I said, I did not put nearly as much effort as I should have into Bauer's Game Corner for 8 years. And so I'm going back and putting makeup on the pigs of all my old videos with thumbnails and tags and stuff that I had the weeds that I'd let grow for years and years and years. I'm starting to pull, but I've shot 3,000 videos, so it takes a really long time to go fix your backlog.
I hear you. I'm gonna try this. I got a screen share. I think I'm on your channel. I'm gonna just kind of browse through it just to show everybody here. This is Bauer's Game Corner. Let's see if I can go here. Anyway, here he is. That was the video that you'll get me.
3,000 videos covering old, new, and upcoming board games.
Yeah, I'm just going to scroll through here. So here's some of Bauer's stuff here. I'll just go to his playlist here. He's got all kinds of different games. He's got them, all separated. He's got reviews. He's got – how many reviews did you say you had? You had like a –
I think I got 1,100 reviews.
1,100. Wow. Just all kinds of videos on all kinds of different things. Just amazing. It's kind of amazing, like when you start doing a channel, how let's see here. Oh, here we go. It's kind of amazing, like when you start growing a channel, it's just like all these ideas start to show up, and then you start doing. Originally I was just doing board game reviews, and then it kind of morphed into doing more things. And I can kind of see how that happened on your channel too. Just, more and more ideas came about, and more and more, what's the word I'm looking for? Collaboration between you and your fans and everything. Here's a question. Have you ever had like one of those celebrity moments where people are like, oh my gosh, you're Bauer from Bauer's Game Corner or anything like that?
I say this to my wife every time I go to Origins or Gen Con, and even in Essen. I say I feel like a D-list celebrity. It's one of my favorite things about running beef. I'm not Tom Vassell. I'm not Will Wheaton. I know that, but I get the looks. I get the double takes, and sometimes I'll be like, "Hey, can I get a picture with you?" Or "Hey, I really enjoy what you're doing." And I'll say I took my son to Origins right before 2019. No, 2000. Yeah. The last one they had, and on the last day we just played a whole bunch of kids games, and I got recognized a couple times, and he actually got recognized once, which was really really cool. Wow. And yeah, it sounds like such a jerk thing to say, but it's so cool. It really is cool, just because yes, I see subscribers and I see comments, but to actually see the person behind the computer saying, "Hey, I really enjoy what you're doing." And me and my wife watch your videos, and it's like, oh wow, that's awesome. Like it just dopamines. It's like, yes, that's all. Thank you. It's cool seeing the people.
All right, I'll get a couple more questions to you here. Do you have any particular theme games that you guys like to play a lot, like war games or card games, or a particular genre of games that you guys really enjoy?
My son and I really like cooperative games, but that's mostly just because he's a very, very sore loser currently, but he's 7. So we've been playing a lot of cooperative games lately, but I'm an Omni gamer. Pretty much the only type of games I don't touch are war games, and that's mostly just because I don't have someone to play them with. But other than that, I love card games. I love board games, kids games, 3-hour-long dry Euro games. I'm pretty much an Omni gamer. Party games, everything.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Well, man, Forrest, it's great talking to you, man. And hopefully we'll get to I do like a lot of live streams with some other people. We just talk various stuff. So if you'd like to join in on us, please feel free to. We'd love to have you.
Cool. Thanks for having me, Norm.
You're very welcome, man. I will go ahead and give you a plug. This is Forrest from Bauer's Game Corner. I'll leave a link here in the description. Please feel free to hit him up, subscribe to him, check out what he's got. And great guy, great channel. And thanks so much for joining me today, Forrest. And we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have a blessed day. And everybody, you all have a great day too. We'll see you next time.